Hey guys, hopefully you are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. This is going to be our final week. So as always, I have a couple of important announcements as well as some topics that you'll be learning about this week. So as always, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of a checklist of what to expect this week. My hope is to have all of your papers graded by Monday or Tuesday. If you have any questions about your paper, about the comments that I left on your paper, please don't hesitate to email me, to reach out to me. I'm happy to explain anything. As we kind of move forward, I want you guys to read chapters 11 through 13. And these are kind of shorter chapters than you've seen before, so it should go pretty quickly. Watch some videos. I mean, you guys will notice that I've kind of posted a ton of videos that kind of go with chapter 13 because chapter 13 is so broad, but more on this a little bit later. You will have to complete exam number 4 and social bookmark number 4 before the week is up. So by Sunday at midnight, you're going to be done with this class. So when we look at chapter 11, we really are kind of going back to see what the developments are in the world of behaviorism and psychoanalysis. So I always like to tell people, where are we in history? We're really after World War II, roughly 1960 to about 1970, almost leading up to the 1980s. This chapter, again, kind of focuses in on what is happening after the pioneers of Freud and Watson have left the field. How are the new people, the new psychologists in these areas, bringing the field to where it is today? So main players during this time are going to be B.F. Skinner and Edward Tolman in the world of behavioralism, and Anna Freud, Erik Erikson, and Karen Horney in the field of psychoanalysis. All 5 of these individuals are names that you should know, names that you should recognize, and are truly will kind of go down in history of having kind of large contributions to the field of psychology in general. So you're definitely going to kind of see more pop culture and psychology meshing together. Really, this time period, people started to learn more and more about psychology, and it became kind of a more dominant force in classes at universities. The APA continued to grow and grow and grow. So this really is an important time period for history, for psychology, and for the fields of behaviorism and psychoanalysis. When we move on to chapter 12, we're going to be looking at humanistic psychology as well as cognitive psychology. Many of you, if you've taken classes in positive psychology as well as cognitive psychology, you're probably wondering, why in the world are these two topics related? Many would argue that these are kind of the polar opposites of theories during this time period. But it's important to know that even though they're really kind of the opposite, they're both happening at the same time and almost in a way of kind of reacting to each other. So again, during this time period, we are after World War II, kind of up until 2000. It's important to kind of remember during this time period, a huge focus and force in psychology is going to be globalization. So you have more people from different countries and different cultures talking to each other in order to create theories and do studies and experiments in psychology. You also, during this time period, are going to see a rise in education and science in the United States. So this is really kind of the first time that you're going to see those major education centers kind of move from Europe to the United States. So before this time period, kind of before World War II, if you wanted a great education, if you wanted to study science, if you wanted to get a PhD and learn from the best people, you were going to Europe in order to get that done. After World War II, if you wanted that great education, if you wanted to study, if you wanted a PhD, people started going to the United States to do that. As of right now, if we kind of look at this trend, things are kind of moving again in the opposite direction. US is really starting to lose their lead on this area. You're seeing less and less international students coming to the United States for studies. I think other universities around the world are getting much larger. Also, Asia is sort of becoming a new powerhouse for education, studying, science, that sort of thing. So trends are kind of still developing in this area. So kind of going back to what I was talking about before, humanistic and cognitive psychology are really two new waves that are kind of coming into the psychological field. They are very, very different from each other. Genuinely kind of think of them as polar opposites, which is fine. They're both really good ways of kind of conceptualizing who people are and how to understand people. But like I said, it's just two different viewpoints to help you understand a person. During also this time, you will see the term the cognitive revolution. So many would say that we are still in this cognitive revolution, meaning that we are moving as a field and as psychology more into cognition and brain scans and things such as psychopharmacology, so the study of drugs on behavior and medication as forms of treatment. More people are kind of focused in on the parts of the brain and how the parts of the brain, the chemicals in the brain affect your behavior versus it just looking at behavior itself or looking at what you're saying in a talk therapy session. We're really starting to look at what is happening in the mind biologically, physiologically. And that's really kind of where we are today. Which leads us to chapter 13. Like I said, it is a very, very small portion of your textbook. It's just a couple of pages. It's really meant to kind of wrap things up in general for the text. So this chapter kind of focuses in on 2000 to today. It's kind of asking us what's next for psychology and what will be the next wave. So currently, we are still in this cognitive wave of psychology. So think to yourself, what do you think the next wave will be? What will be the next viewpoint and field within psychology? Do you think it's going to be multidisciplinary? Do you think it's going to be eclectic, that it'll combine various different fields of psychology into one? We really don't know. There's definitely areas in which psychology, we're kind of seeing trends happen. So overwhelmingly, trends are happening for psychology to be multidisciplinary, which means kind of combining different fields. The researchers who are getting the grants, who are doing the big research designs, are not purely in the field of psychology. They're in multiple fields. So you will definitely see these kind of applied careers such as industrial organizational psychology, which focuses in on business and psychology. You're going to see fields like forensic psychology, which is combining criminal justice and psychology. Another kind of huge branch is trying to get as many different kind of careers and areas together. So there's definitely grants that are kind of happening at UT Tyler now that combine psychology education and pharmacy, or psychology education and biology. So what these grants are kind of looking at is academic motivation for students who are in STEM careers. So that's combining psychology, aka motivation. STEM careers are going to be kind of those biology, chemistry, those hard sciences, and looking at kind of the education side of things would also be another field to kind of add into this disciplinary viewpoint. So questions I really want you to ask yourself after reading this chapter, after kind of thinking about where we are now, is whose names do you think will appear in the history of psychology text 50 years from now, 100 years from now? What names have we covered that will kind of disappear and be forgotten from the history books? Are there going to be possible new branches of psychology? Currently, there are 54 divisions of psychology. How many more divisions do you think there are going to be 50 years from now, 100 years from now? What studies and experiments will change the way that we view humans, their behavior, their interaction with other people? Will history repeat itself? Most history classes, whether it's a history of psychology or US history or world history, they're always going to ask, will history repeat itself? So it's always kind of a good question to ask yourself. And that's really kind of why we have history classes, to learn from the past, and you will see that trends tend to repeat themselves. Also, this chapter, like I said, I have posted a ton of videos. Most of them are going to be related to kind of where psychology is headed now. What are the big topic issues that researchers and people are interested in? So some of these, forensic psychology. I definitely don't go a week without hearing about somebody who wants to be a forensic psychologist. So I have a video on Billy Milligan, who really helped change the world of forensic psychology and what is considered legal insanity. Another kind of hot button issue right now and topic is going to be autism. A lot of people are studying autism. We're seeing huge increases in people who have been diagnosed with autism. So autism studies are very popular right now. So it's kind of why I posted a video on Temple Grandin. So if you've never heard of her, she really is a truly inspiring person who has kind of struggled with autism but throughout her life, but has made the most of it. I also have kind of a large section, like including an article and some videos on LGBT psychology. LGBT psychology and trends are definitely a heated discussion point in our time right now. So it's kind of important to know kind of the history of how LGBT psychology started and where it is today, and kind of where it still needs to go in order to make a difference. Also, kind of another huge portion kind of going off of that is going to be social justice. So gone are kind of the days of psychology being predominantly only in the lab. Many people today kind of expect psychologists to also be in the public forum, meaning that they're advocating for other people. Being a social justice warrior is kind of the common phrase that you'll hear be thrown out. So what does it mean? What does social justice mean? And what does it mean to be a social justice warrior? So like I said, we're going to kind of cover kind of the big trends in psychology today. But as always, if you guys need anything, have any questions at all, I am happy to help. I hope you have a good rest of your summer. I enjoyed having you, and I hope that you learned something from this course. Bye.